The wind has teeth. It gnaws at the edges of Ka-Elen's hide wrap, a persistent predator hunting for any sliver of exposed skin. For 3 days, the hunting party has tracked nothing but the ghosts of a scent on the frigid air, their bellies tight with the cold that comes from within. The hunger of the clan, waiting in the shelter of the overhang, is a physical weight on his shoulders. He crests a small rise, the ancient, compressed snow crunching under his boots, and the smell hits him. Hot scent of a living beast, but the deep, unmistakable promise of rot. Of meat. He follows it, his pace quickening, his spear held low. The smell leads him not to a clearing but to a fracture in the world itself, a deep crevasse, a frozen wound slashed across the glacier. He creeps to the edge, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs, and peers down into the throat of blue ice. And there it is, a gift and a curse, lying on its side 100 feet below. An Ankylosaurus, the walking fortress, the shatterer of shins, now a still mountain of potential. Even in death, it is magnificent and terrible, a mosaic of fused bone plates. The osteoderm covers its broad back, a shield that no spear from this prehistoric world could ever hope to pierce. Its tail, ending in a club of solid bone that could pulverize a Tyrannosaurus Rex's leg, is half buried in the snow at the crevasse floor. It must have misstepped its immense weight by a thin crust of snow. Ka-Elen's mind, honed by seasons of scarcity, does not see a fossil, he sees a larder. He sees rendered fat, smoked meat to last until the thaw, thick hide for new shelters, and bone for a generation of ancient tools. He gives a sharp, low whistle. Soon the others join him at the precipice, all BOR, his face a roadmap of scars and frostbite, and young Alora, whose eyes hold a spark of ingenuity that the cold has not yet extinguished. A collective breath is stolen by the wind. They see what he sees. Salvation. BOR is the first to speak, his voice a gravelly whisper. The sky spirits mock us. They show us the feast but place it on a plate we cannot read, offering no handholds. To descend is to die. To climb down would be madness, and to haul up a single severed leg, let alone the entire carcass, is a task beyond the strength of 20 men. The initial blaze of hope in Ka-Elen's chest gutters, leaving behind the cold ash of despair. This is the brutal irony of their existence as early humans, surrounded by titans, by dinosaurs of impossible scale, and yet starvation is the enemy that truly stalks them. But at the problem. His gaze drifts from the dead beast to the sheer walls to the skeletal remains of a petrified tree lying near the edge of the chasm. The meat is the prize, but the ice and the gravity are the monsters they must now defeat. They return not with meat but with a puzzle. As Ka-Elen describes the armor-plated bounty trapped in its icy grave, a familiar despair settles over the clan huddled in the great cave. The children are listless, their bellies aching with emptiness. The elders stare into the fire, their thoughts turned inward. It is Lyra, the clan matriarch whose memory stretches back through 60 winters, who breaks the silence. Her voice is thin and dry like autumn leaves. The river has taught us, she says, her gaze fixed on BOR the tool maker. When a log jams against the bank, one man cannot move it, but 3 men with a smaller log can pry it free. She mimes the motion with her gnarled fingers. Bor's eyes, usually clouded with the pragmatism of flint napping, widen slightly. He sees the shape of her thought. Not prying but lifting. The principle is the same. Never it. The idea catches like a spark in dry tinder. Hope, a dangerous and fragile thing, returns to the faces around the fire. The next day is a whirlwind of desperate industry, a testament to the ingenuity born of starvation. The women, their hands deft and strong, begin weaving. They take every spare strip of hide, every cured gut, every length of tough sinew harvested from past kills, and braid them into a single thick rope, thicker than any man's awl. Arduous process, a prayer woven from the remains of their ancestors' hunts. Meanwhile, Ka-Elen leads the strongest men to the petrified log he had seen near the crevasse. It is stone heavy, a relic from a time before humans, but they heave and grunt, using smaller logs as rollers, inching the immense weight toward the chasm's edge. They assemble their machine, a piece of primitive technology born from a flash of memory in the season of hunger. The petrified log is positioned over the abyss, its one end anchored by a pyramid of massive boulders hauled into place. The new rope is slung over it. The plan is simple, audacious. Several of them will be the counterweight, pulling down on one end of the rope to hoist chunks of meat on the other. For their first test, they tie the rope around a large granite slab, a fraction of the weight of the Ankylosaurus leg. BR gives the signal. 10 men, KLN among them, throw their weight onto the rope. The log groans, a deep, resonant sound of stone grinding on ice. The rope stretches taut, its braids creaking under the strain. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happens. Then, with a sickening crack, one of the anchoring boulders splinters. The log shifts violently, and the men are thrown to the ground as the granite slab plunges back to the crevasse floor, shattering on impact. A collective gasp of fear and failure echoes in the silence. The machine is a failure. The gamble was for nothing. They have only wasted what little strength they had left. Failure hangs in the air, colder than the wind. For a full day, the clan retreats into a shell of despair. But hunger is a relentless goad. It is Alara who approaches BOR, not with deference, but with a fierce, quiet intensity. She holds 2 small stones in her palm, connected by a single strand of sinew. She drapes the sinew over a twig. The rope slipped because the log is round. She says, her voice barely a whisper against the wind. We need to carve a tooth in the stone wood, a groove for the line to sit in. She then points to the shattered anchor. And we need a better route. We tie the log itself to the mountain, not just with weight on top. It is a solution so simple, so infuriatingly obvious, that the men who had hauled the stones grunt in shame. BOR looks at the young woman, truly seeing the mind behind her eyes for the first time in this prehistoric life. He nods slowly, a rare smile cracking his chapped lips. The hominid history of their people is not just written in the bones of the hunted, but in moments like this. The work resumes with a renewed, almost feverish energy. BOR and his apprentices spend hours with their sharpest flints, chipping and grinding a deep, smooth groove into the petrified log. Others, led by Alara, weave a web of small ropes, anchoring the log to jagged outcrops of rock 50 feet back from the crevasse edge, creating a root system of braided hide. They are not just engineers, they are becoming part of the landscape, tethering their hope to the bedrock of the ancient earth. When the machine is ready once more, KLN is the one to descend. He is the lightest and the most agile. He wraps himself in hides, the clan lowering him slowly, his feet kicking against the sheer ice wall. The air grows still and frigid as he drops into the blue shadows. The sheer scale of the Ankylosaurus is overwhelming from up close. He hacks at a massive hind leg with his stone axe, the sound of the impacts swallowed by the chasm. Finally, a section is severed. He secures it with a gut line and gives the signal, a sharp tug. Above, the clan leans into the rope. This time, the groove holds. The anchors strain but do not break. The massive haunch of meat, glistening with ice crystals, begins its slow journey upward. But they are not alone. The scent of blood, faint at first, has now painted the wind. A new sound drifts across the glacier, a series of high-pitched, chittering calls, lean and poised. They pack of Utahraptors. They are drawn by the promise of the kill, their sickle claws and predatory intelligence now focused on the clan's hard-won prize. A low growl rumbles through the hunters at the top. They have solved the puzzle of the ice, only to face a new, more aggressive monster. BOR spits on the ground. The world always demands its tax, he snarls, hefting a heavy throwing spear. The clan must now split its focus, a dance of survival skills at the edge of the abyss. Half of them must continue the slow, rhythmic work of hauling, their muscles screaming in protest, while the other half, armed with spears and stones, forms a bristling, desperate perimeter against the approaching tide of teeth and claws. The work is a brutal rhythm of sweat and fear, a symphony of human grit against a backdrop of reptilian hunger. For 2 days and 2 nights, the clan toils. They haul meat until their arms are numb, then turn to face the raptors' probing attacks, a whirlwind of spears and desperate shouts driving the predators back, only for them to regroup and charge again. They learn the predators' patterns, the feints and the lunges, turning the edge of the abyss into a fortress wall. The last section of the mighty Ankylosaurus is hauled to the surface. The crevasse is empty. Exhausted, bleeding, but victorious, the clan retreats to their cave, dragging a mountain of meat behind them. They have not merely survived, they have bent the physics of their world to their will. They have looked into the jaws of an impossible problem and engineered a solution from bone, stone, and the sinew of their own ingenuity. This single act, born of desperation at the edge of an ice-filled chasm, is a quiet but pivotal moment in human evolution. It is the echo of the first dam, the first bridge, the first time Homo sapiens refused to be beaten by the sheer verticality of their world, proving that the greatest tool of our human ancestors was never the sharpest stone, but the mind that could envision a fulcrum and deliver. We are the children of the puzzle solvers, the inheritors of an audacity forged in the cold. And deep within the permafrost, the tremors of a far greater weight begin to stir.